Good evening and welcome to this Thursday edition of the Angela Ray Show. One more day left in this series entitled In the Kitchen. Right about now, I'd just like to send a special shout out to everyone who will be catching the broadcast on the replay. Thank you so much for tuning in. To my live viewers, you know the drill. Whenever you get on the broadcast, make sure that you check in the comments. Let me know where you are watching from tonight. We're going to give everyone a moment or two to get on the broadcast, and then we'll get started with our Ray of Motivation moment. Hey, Lamar Gully, watching from Powder Springs. Thanks so much for checking us out tonight. So we're going to go ahead and get started with tonight's broadcast. My Ray of Motivation moment tonight poses the question, are you one of the great pretenders? Now, for my old school music lovers, not necessarily old school, but my old school music lovers, you probably remember that song, The Great Pretender from the Platters, and it definitely was a classic. Oftentimes in my career as an actor, people refer to us as pretenders. But that's not the pretending that I'm talking about. How often do you pretend not to know what you know and not to hear what you know is being spoken to you? So often we ignore warning signs. We don't listen to that voice that says, hey, you should do this or you should do that. And it may not even be anything big. Oftentimes we think of that voice as guiding us to do something big, like change a career or leave a relationship, maybe even move to another state or another city. But sometimes it can be just as simple as looking under the bed. And I say that because that was the voice that I heard. It wasn't looking under the bed, but looking under the quilt at a hotel. For some reason, I ignored that voice. And when I returned back home, I realized that I had left my external hard drive in that hotel. And of course, by the time I called back, they said they didn't have it. I even drove 3 hours back to the hotel a couple of days later. It wasn't there. So, my Ray of Motivation moment again. What are you pretending not to hear? And what are you pretending not to know? The Great Pretenders was a wonderful song, but I don't think you want that to be your legacy. And that is your Ray of Motivation moment for this Thursday edition of the Angela Ray Show. Well, we're in the midst of a week-long series entitled In the Kitchen, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing great chefs throughout this week, and tonight's guest is no exception. She has over 20 years of experience in the hospitality industry. She recently launched her business, Heart and Soul Catering and Events, based out of Miami, Florida. However, they have a worldwide, well, I'm saying worldwide, I'm speaking something. They have a nationwide network of chefs and professionals to help you have a great event. So please help me welcome Chef Cassandra Caldwell. Cassandra, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you for having me, Angela.
Oh, we got somebody say Fayetteville in the house for the Tar Heel royalty. Yes, Edwin. So, how have you spent this time of social distancing and being at home?
Well, I've been very busy. Like many businesses, when the coronavirus hit, we had to shut down our operations because several events got canceled. We had 10 events to cancel in a period of 2 days. And so we had to pivot and think of other ways to keep the doors open. And so we started to focus more on delivery services and our weekly meal service. And also during the time, I'm very proud that we started a food drive that raised enough money to provide over 416 meals for individuals across South Florida who were impacted by the coronavirus. So we've been busy, and I've been busy. And believe it or not, during this time, it was a great time to actually breathe a little bit and take a break because we'll be celebrating our 2-year anniversary in July. And I haven't had a vacation in 2 years. So I've been working so hard on the business that I just have not had time and have not been able to do it. So believe it or not, this coronavirus has been somewhat of a blessing and a curse.
I've heard a lot of people describe it that way. Now, before entering into the culinary and hospitality field, you were a diversity professional for several years. What made you decide to pivot and change careers, and what was that transition like?
Yes, for over 23 years, I focused on diversity consulting. I was a diversity executive at several large global organizations. And I just wanted to follow my gift. And for a long time, diversity and inclusion was my passion, but my true gift is in hospitality. And even though I have been working in this field forever, I've always seemed to figure out a way to weave in hospitality and culinary into everything that I'm doing. I've always had at least 2 jobs. So I always figured out a way to do that. And making the transition from what I was doing to hospitality in the culinary field was quite easy after I sat down and really thought about all the things that I've done, throughout the years. And Angela, you'll laugh at this, but when we were at UNC Chapel Hill, one of my first jobs was working with Marriott. Marriott had the food service contract at UNC Chapel Hill. I don't know if you know that. And
Oh, yeah, I worked there too.
And so I was a cashier. I was a cashier in Chase Cafeteria as well as Lenore Hall. And that was kind of where I got my start with hospitality. And it's just kind of bloomed and blossomed over through the years.
Yeah, I think that there are a lot of people who can testify that Lenore or Chase. I never worked in Chase, but yeah, we call it Lenoir every now and then, but Lenoir, yes. I worked in Lenoir for a little while.
Good.
So as a chef, what is your specialty?
Most people think my specialty is soul food because my business is called Heart and Soul Catering and Events, but it's not. My specialty is vegan cooking, believe it or not. And the reason vegan food is my specialty is because I love to see people's reactions when they eat the vegan food and they don't believe it's vegan. I have literally almost gotten into fights with my clients. Not gotten into fights, but
I know what you mean.
They get upset. They're like, this is not vegan food. Yes, it is. It's too good. What does that mean? It's too good. And so I love helping people understand that even though there are no animal products in the food, that it can be delicious and it can be just as good as any other food. And I've often had people tell me that, if I can cook this way every day, I would be vegan too. And so I understand that.
So of your vegan dishes, which one is the most requested?
Vegan mac and cheese. They love the vegan mac and cheese. They go crazy over that vegan mac. They can't believe it didn't have cheese in it. So, yeah, that's the most requested.
That must be a theme because I had a vegan chef on Monday night and she, without hesitation, without question, she did the same thing that she said, mac and cheese, hands down, people request it over and over. She actually has won awards for her vegan mac and cheese. So, but in general, mac and cheese, it's just a really good comfort food, So if you can make it with non-dairy products, I'm sure that people really love it. Now,
I was going to say they do. Believe it or not, they don't believe it's vegan. Here we go again. This is not vegan. Yes, it is. It's vegan. So, yeah.
Sometimes it is hard to believe. I had a chef's I knew because she told me. She was like, "Hey, I'm trying out this vegan barbecue, and I just want you to sample it. Let me know if it's too spicy or too tangy, whatever." I had it, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a little hesitant because it was jackfruit. I never had jackfruit before, and I was like, "Oh, this is really good." Now, what was amazing is then another chef just happened to come, and she's like, "Oh Lord, let me fix me a sandwich." She didn't know what it was. She did. She's a chef. I mean, I'm talking classically trained, graduate of the Art Institute of Charlotte. She was like, "What you mean this ain't meat?" That was, she was like, "What you mean this isn't meat?" So it is amazing to get that reaction from clients when they taste your food.
It is.
Now, of your, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask another question.
No, but what I was about to say was because you're from North Carolina, you can appreciate this. I make an Eastern North Carolina jackfruit barbecue that is just out of this world. And so the next time I see you, I have to make some for you.
Okay. Okay. And for those of you who are watching who are not from North Carolina, we have, first of all, we are the barbecue capital. I don't care what Texas and Kansas City or Memphis says, just so you know, we are the barbecue capital. That's number one. Number two, we do have two types. We have Eastern North Carolina and what people call Lexington barbecue. So, you know, we have two types even within the state. That's why we are number one in the barbecue. Hands down, in the discussion. I'm sure I'm going to get some inboxes and some comments from the people who are not from North Carolina. Bring
Right.
it. I'm not scared. I ain't never scared.
Okay.
What would you say your specialty though is outside of when I say specialty, your most requested dish that isn't vegan?
I request everything that isn't vegan.
Mm-hmm.
My most requested dish seems to be shrimp and grits. People love the shrimp and grits, and they're always, for some reason, brunch is my most requested menu. And so I always try and put shrimp and grits on that menu whenever possible, depending on the budget. But they love the shrimp and grits as well.
Oh, okay. Now, you mentioned that, you know, during this time of social distancing, you pivoted a little bit. You had a lot of events that were canceled, like your dinner parties, maybe bigger catering events. When you are up and running and you're doing some meal prep, some personal chef services, along with catering and dinner parties and special events, how do you keep all of that together? How do you balance it all?
Well, you have to be organized. And actually, that is a great question because what I'm finding is a lot of times chefs love to cook, but they may not be that organized on the business side. And when I owned a restaurant in Fayetteville with my mom called the Croaker Spot, um, I was the business part of it, and all she wanted to do was cook. She could have cared less about being organized, everything else. And so you definitely have to be organized. I have software in place to help me keep track of all the events and all the details. And so that's really the only way that I am able to do it because there's no way I could remember everything. And because of my 23-year corporate background, that helps me be a better business person. And I've also owned businesses down through the years, a variety of different businesses. So all of that training comes into play now that I'm over in the hospitality industry.
I thought that we had a question from one of our viewers, but not yet. What would you say has been your most successful event thus far? Whether that's because of the numbers, because of the response from the client?
About 99% of my clients are very happy with their, not only the food, but the professionalism of the service and the customer service. But I would say the most successful event in my eyes was the first time we had a very large corporate event. And that was during our very first year back in 2018. We had only been open a couple of months because we started in July. And so we got a huge contract to do a corporate event for 200 people. And I was nervous. I was like, 200 people. It's like, this is a big deal. This is a corporate event. And so, fortunately, I knew how to delegate and I knew how to staff the event properly so that it came off as a success. And we had about 8 staff members there helping with it. It was a beautiful event. The client was over the moon happy, and they call us all the time to come and do things for lunch. Well, they, before coronavirus, to come and provide lunch for their employees downtown Miami, and they already booked so basically they will book us for their holiday event 6 months in advance. So last year they did it like in June. Like, hey, are you available in December? We said, yes, we sure are. And so in my opinion, that was the most successful event.
Now, I know part of your background is also educating and being an educator. And given that, thinking about the educator, culinary professional in you, have you ever considered creating a cookbook?
People have asked me that all the time, Angela, and the answer is no. And the reason I say no is because, no, I guess I have too much of my mom and me. I don't want to give away too many of my recipes. I just don't. I have no interest in that. They ask all the time, are you going to do a cookbook? No, I'm not. I'm not going to do a cookbook. I may get dropped little hints on my Facebook page, and people ask specific questions. I may respond, I may not, but no, I don't want to do a cookbook now because I am a professionally licensed chef. If anyone asks what is in the food, I have to tell you, because you may have allergies, you may have dietary restrictions. So we are trained to always do that. But just give out recipes, nah, I'm not doing that.
Now I'm just curious. Now, do you think that is a cultural thing? Because there are times that I share things, but there are other times I'm like, no, if I tell you that, I got to kill you. So, but sometimes I really feel that's like cultural.
It's very cultural. And, we work hard. Those are like bragging rights whenever your macaroni and cheese is better than everybody else's. So we can't tell you the secret ingredient that we put into it. No, I'm not doing that. But like I said, if a client requests to know what's in something, I have to give them all the ingredients, because that is a part of our training as professionally licensed chefs.
Now, I want to ask you about that. You said because you are professionally licensed. Now, are there people who are cooking for people professionally who aren't licensed?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Yes, there
okay.
are. There are lots of people who are cooking for people who don't have professional license. And so what that means is, whenever you are professionally licensed, and everyone who is providing catering or food service of any kind has to be registered with their state. And there's a process for that, and there are fees involved in that. And you have to have proper insurance. You have to have proper training. And so a lot of people just start catering businesses or food service, and they just do it out of their kitchen or what have you, and they have cats on the counter and all kind of interesting things going on. So what I always tell clients is, make sure you ask the right questions whenever you're hiring a caterer. Make sure that they do have insurance. Make sure they are licensed, because if anything goes wrong with that event or that food at that event and people get sick, that is a major lawsuit waiting to happen. And a lot of times people get sick because the caterer may not be licensed or does not have the proper training.
Okay. So okay.
And it's funny because most people don't know that, because you say, hey, I just get my aunt to do it. And it's okay if the person is not charging for their services. It's okay to cook out of your kitchen. That's fine. Family reunion, whatever. But anytime you are charging people money to provide a service to them, you have to be licensed.
All right. So that is definitely something for people to know if they're looking to get in that. All right. So Edwin has a question for you. Edwin is one of my loyal viewers.
What is your secret to surviving and thriving in everything you do? Thanks for that question, Edwin. And, honestly, my friend, I know Edwin too. For those of you watching, Angela knows I know Edwin. We're all from Fayetteville. We all grew up together and went to Carolina, UNC Chapel Hill. But Edwin, I am not successful at everything I do. And I am not ashamed of that. I have tried many things and I have failed at many things. And I've always been transparent with that. And that's okay. But the point is that I keep getting back up. And sometimes it's very hard to get back up. And when the coronavirus hit, I wasn't sure that I could get back up. But it was because of the support of people like Angela and several others who have supported my business since its inception and supported me down through the years that I was able to get back up. But by no means do I want to create the illusion that, everything Cassandra touches turns to gold, because that's not true. I have had lots of success in my life, over 23 years of leaping tall buildings with single bounds, but all of that has come at a price. And like I said, I'm not ashamed of that. I'm not ashamed of my journey. As Maya Angelou used to say, I wouldn't give nothing for my journey now. But it's been rough. But I've had my ups and I've had my downs, and I'm still standing.
Now, I know you mentioned that you do a lot of vegan cooking. That is your specialty. Outside of vegan cooking, I feel like dietary needs change a lot. There's actually a meme that I saw. Um, I think I don't know if it was the Last Supper or if it was Jesus feeding the 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, where people like, no, I can't eat that. Yeah, I know I can't eat, I have gluten. I can't eat that. Or I'm vegan. I can't eat that fish.
Right.
And so, but they're not just preferences. People legitimately have gluten allergies. Some
Right.
people follow a paleo diet. Others follow the keto diet.
Mhm.
Others are vegan. Some people want traditional soul food and they want to taste the fat back grease. How have you been able, those people, how have you been able to navigate with all of those different dietary needs?
Well, what I do is with all new clients, I have them fill out a very detailed food questionnaire, and they share with me not only their preferences, but any dietary restrictions that they have. And so I am always studying trends in dietary restrictions, as well as trends in food service, so that I can make sure that whenever a client tells me they're paleo, so okay, fine. Well, I understand the paleo diet. I've studied it. So here are specific menus that I'm proposing to them. All of my clients who, especially the ones who are on weekly meal service, they receive customized menus based on those preferences and those dietary restrictions. So I send their menus out every week, and they let me know, hey, I don't like this, or could you change this a little bit? And so that is the way that I love to serve my clients. And even when they have events, for example, a young lady just contacted me the other day, and it's her 30th birthday, and she's having several people coming to Miami for her birthday, but she's the only one that's vegan. And so what I proposed to her was a menu that had vegan options for every menu item. And she said she wanted soul food, which I giggled about. So I'll have regular macaroni and cheese. I'll have vegan mac and cheese. I'll have regular fried chicken. I'll have vegan fried chicken. And so that's how her menu has been laid out. And she loved it. So I always make sure that I'm making my clients happy and giving them the opportunity to change anything that they want to before we sign the agreement.
Okay. Lamar Gully from Atlanta has a question.
With racial inequity in the news today, can you please talk about some of the challenges you have faced as a woman, and particularly Black woman? You know what, Lamar? First of all, thank you for your repost on Instagram today. I saw that. And I haven't so far, I have not faced any real challenges that I'm aware of. And what I'm finding is that I'm actually coming out ahead in this particular market because I seem to be a lot more organized, a lot more professional than many of my competitors. And several of my clients have told me that. They say, we can tell you have a corporate background because you don't even talk like the other chefs. Now, I don't know how the other chefs talk. I have several friends who are chefs, and we all sound the same in my opinion, but so far, I haven't experienced any kind of negativity. And Lamar, I think it's because I'm self-employed. Now, if I were out trying to get a job in a restaurant or a resort or something of that nature, I probably would experience more of that. But so far, I have not. And as a diversity and inclusion professional of over 25 years, don't mistake what I'm saying to say that racism doesn't exist or sexism, etc. I totally understand, and I know that it has existed because I have experienced it before. But with this particular part of my life, I haven't experienced it so far.
One of the things that I think that you are a great teacher in, you mentioned it, is just how you run your business. And I think that really boils down to great customer service. Now, I remember one specific kind of example where you were trying to get a contract and you talked about what you did leading up to meeting with the client, the actual meeting, and then how you scored. Can you give some advice? I mean, you mentioned organization, and that's important. You want to make sure that you know that if you have an 8 o'clock catering event, you're there early. You're there at 7:30, 7 o'clock, or however long it takes to get set up. But can you give an example of maybe going over and beyond that might help someone either in culinary or that has another business that maybe they had never thought about approaching a client this way?
Well, one of the things I can say is that I take a lot of pride and detail in the proposals that I present to clients. And so, with my diversity consulting, we always had to submit a proposal to the client. So I take that same approach with culinary. Most people just kind of throw menus at clients and like here, and this is how much it costs. I don't do that. My proposals are very detailed. They're several pages long. They give a background on our company. It gives actual pictures, photos of the food, so they'll see what their presentation is going to be. And it goes into great detail with the agreement. And believe it or not, those things sound basic, but as I mentioned, several of my competitors don't do that. And I would have never known that if my clients didn't tell me. They said, this proposal is outstanding. I've never seen anything like this from a chef. So it's because of that I think Heart and Soul Catering and Events stands apart from other businesses, other chefs. And, like I said, Angela, and you know this, I have a very eclectic background. And a part of that is also in graphic design. So I can do some interesting stuff with graphic design. I get people to help me now because I'm older. I don't understand all the stuff that's going on, but I have a basic eye for it. And so that also comes through in the proposals as well. So your proposal is your introduction to your client. And when they see you are putting that much effort into a proposal, they know that the service and the food is going to receive just that much effort.
You have another question, and I can't wait to hear your answer to this since I know you so well.
Veronica, have you been approached by a cooking show and would you consider being on one? Veronica, hey, girl. No, I have not been approached by a cooking show, and no, I would not consider being on one. And here's why. Several people have asked me that. I don't want the pressure of the timing. And so most of those cooking shows, you're timed. You have a certain amount of time to create dishes. That's not why I got into this business, to be pressured. So with catering, I can go at my own pace. I can work with other chefs. I can get whatever done I need to get done. And I don't have to be pressured. I experienced the whole pressure game when I owned a restaurant. And that's when I realized I'd never want to own a restaurant again. Because that's pressure. People are waiting for their food. They want it out now. They don't want it out 3 hours from now. So no, I will never be on I'll never be on a cooking show if it is a competition show. If it's something there's not a competition, it's not time, then perhaps, but not the way cooking shows go now.
And see, I guess I wasn't even thinking about like guys' grocery games or something or Cutthroat Kitchen. I was thinking about you hosting your own show, me knowing that you have a degree in speech communications. You've been speaking forever. I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect for her. But that I was thinking, would you consider one like that?
Perhaps, probably not, because then guess what? I have to share my recipes, and we don't want that, do we? I would maybe considering having a cooking show, but I would have to really figure out, quite frankly, how to monetize it to make it worth my time and how it would fit in the big picture of what I'm trying to do with my business. I follow lots of chefs on YouTube, and that's how I kind of study techniques and presentations and new trends in food. But I'm not sure that's me. To be honest, deep down inside, I just want to cook too, Angela. But of course, you have to be a business person as well. So maybe in the future, I'll consider that.
I could see that blending with diversity really good, but that's a whole nother conversation.
It
What do you think
because
is
I
the,
don't see it blending with diversity, but okay.
what'd you say?
I said it is a whole nother conversation because I don't see it blending with diversity. We can talk about that offline.
Okay, I may be thinking too big. Now, what do you think is one of the biggest myths people have about the culinary industry?
Myth?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? The biggest myth I think people have is that we're just cooks.
Mm.
And I say that because I have a wonderful uncle, God rest his soul, who only saw chefs as cooks, and he didn't understand the scope of a career in culinary arts and how huge it could actually be. And I think that now we're seeing that we have seen it down through the years with the growth of the Food Network and all these celebrity chefs that we have. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, you're having a celebrity chef on tomorrow, Chef Irie, right?
Actually, he's not going to be on tomorrow. We're going to get him in a little bit later.
Okay, sorry. But anyway,
he coming though.
when I was in high school, and actually when I knew you, Angela, and we were competing in forensics together, had I known that the hospitality industry was a career, I probably would have majored in hospitality and not gone to Carolina, because Carolina doesn't have a hospitality program. So I would have taken a totally different career path, but I didn't know that was open to me. And so now that I've worked in the industry in a variety of ways as an executive for one of the largest global corporations with hospitality, Sodexo, now I understand there's so many different paths you could take. And there's so many different wonderful career choices out there that I definitely encourage many young people, I still do to this day, to consider that as a career if that's something you're interested in, because it is a wonderful career.
I think you've already spoken to this in some ways, this question I'm about to ask you, but I'd love to find out if there's anything else you'd like to add. And you just spoke him up. He's giving you a shout out.
Hey, Chef, what's happening?
I was going to ask you, what advice would you have for someone interested in becoming a chef? You've already told us, that organization and attention to detail. Are there other things that you might add to that?
Well, if anyone's interested in becoming a chef, I would advise them to assess their current experience. And if they don't have a lot of experience in culinary arts, I would very much encourage them to go to culinary school. I didn't go to culinary school. A lot of the celebrity chefs you see on TV did not go to culinary school. For example, the most famous example I love to quote is Bobby Flay. But I had a lot of experience. I had 25 years of hospitality and culinary experience. I owned a restaurant. I worked in various places. So that my path was different. Bobby Flay's path was different. He worked at several apprenticeships coming up through the ranks as a cook and a chef, line cook, etc. So if you don't have that type of experience, I definitely would advise a person starting out to go to culinary school to learn the basics. And but just because you go to culinary school does not make you a great chef. What makes you a great chef is that you continuously study your craft, and you study other chefs, and you work with other chefs, and you learn, and you are open to trying new dishes and experimenting with new dishes. A lot of what I've been doing during this pandemic is just experimenting with new dishes, trying new flavors, understanding things beyond just salt and pepper, that flavors come from around the globe, and you have to be able to infuse those flavors into your cooking to make them interesting and make them unique. And so that's my advice for someone trying to start out.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, any final thoughts on things that people can do to expand their repertoire? Because a lot of people are still at the house, and with the way these numbers are going, we might be in the house a little bit longer than we planned. And I know if people are like me, I've gotten tired of the same things in terms of what I always cook. At the beginning of the pandemic, every time I had a craving, because I was nervous, I didn't even want takeout in March and April. I didn't even eat takeout, let alone thinking about going to a restaurant. So if I had a craving for pizza one night. So I said, okay, looks like you're going to have to figure out how to make dough and make a pizza tonight, because you're not going out. And that's what I did. And I've had Chinese at home. I've had everything, but now I'm like, okay, it's time to switch it up again. So are there things that people can do to switch up the same old, just a couple of examples?
Yes, you can definitely switch up by going to a website called yummly.com.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
.com. And Yummly is unique because let's say, for example, you have cucumbers, tomatoes, and pork chops in your refrigerator. If you type in cucumbers, tomatoes, and pork chops, it'll give you all these recipes that use those ingredients. So I love Yummly because it makes you think about other recipes and other things you can do. You can also visit YouTube. YouTube has all kinds of wonderful recipes. And what I learned is once you type in one thing dealing with food, then they give you these suggestions of all these other things dealing with food. So YouTube is your friend. And last but certainly not least, try just a lot of times people eat the same thing over and over again because they don't want to venture out and try new things. I would say just try something new every week. Just try a new kind of dish, try a new kind of culture. Even if you do order takeout, maybe if you've never had Indian food, try Ethiopian food, etc. Because there is so much out there that you can eat. And check out the food channel because there are all kinds of adventurous eating and channel and chefs out there who are doing a lot of wonderful and amazing things with food to give you some ideas.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I actually hosted a live food event for 6 years. And one of the components was a little live version of Chopped. And yes, because I've seen people throw some stuff together, I'm glad to know that Yumily exists. I knew about it, but I didn't know you could throw in some ingredients and it could tell you what you could prepare. That is great to know. But now I just do Chopped at home. I just look in the refrigerator like, okay, I think this and this and this goes together. And I'm just going to I'm gonna figure it out and make it work. So it's good to know there's some professionals out there on the website that can help me even better.
Exactly.
Well, Chef Cassandra, thank you so much for stopping by the Angela Ray Show on this thoughtful Thursday. I hope that you have a great evening. I have your website and your Instagram scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Was there anything else you'd like to share in terms of our audience getting in contact with you?
No, and actually, I don't see it scrolling across the screen, so maybe that's going on live on Facebook. I'm not sure, but yes, if you'd like to reach me, we do nationwide catering, and my website is cateringheart.com. You can reach me on all social media platforms at cateringheart.com. And Miss Angela Ray, thank you so much for having me on your show. I have enjoyed it.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Well, that is it for this Thursday edition of the Angela Ray Show. As always, I would just like to leave you with Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great evening.